T-shirts. All right, let's get this meeting started. Hello, everybody. My name is Joe Powers. I am the current president of the Houston Beekeeper Association. Thank you all for coming tonight. Kyle here running the I guess you call it the expensive stuff, is our secretary, and in charge of making sure all these people that aren't here can actually see what's going on. So just a real quick, we have upcoming events. We have the Harris County Beekeepers next Tuesday, which is the 28th. Also starting on the 28th. I'll come back to that. Let me come back to it. On the 21st, it's our meeting. We're going to talk about Varroa mites. And then two save the dates. June 17th is the Texas Beekeeper Association Summer Clinic. And then September 9th is the Brazos Valley Beekeeper Association Fall Beekeeping School. Both those last two are great because it's like 8 hours of classes in one day. And it costs maybe $50 or something to go to these things. So, okay, so coming up on the 28th, starting on the 28th, going to the 19th of March, is the Houston Rodeo.
Hold on, Joe. Make sure you've got your mic on.
Oh.
Did it get turned off? Okay.
On?
Yeah.
I'm on. Okay. Anyway, Houston Rodeo. So Harrison here is from the Harris County Beekeepers. He's going to talk about how to get signed up. Here's this stuff. You're just stand right in.
You're good.
Hang on to that. You're good.
Okay, yeah, I'm Harrison Rogers from Harris County Beekeepers, and this is Gary Parks. Harris County Beekeepers is in charge of the bees at the rodeo every year. And we have a sign-up calendar here. I know some of you all have done this before. If there are some new people here that don't think you know much about bees, then you do. It's a good event. There's lots and lots of people come through to see the bees because it's the most popular event in Ag Venture, which is the educational part of the rodeo. So I like to have 4 people in the morning, 4 people in the evening. So that's 9 to 3, 3 to 9. And that way there's enough people there where you can talk to each other, learn about bees yourself from somebody else, and talk to a lot of other people and show people where the queen is. Gary, you want to talk about?
Well, if you're kind enough to go ahead and help us out, you get this nice little tag, and it's really of some benefit to you. It'll get you free parking at the Reed Road Park and Ride, which is only a 10-minute free bus ride from Reed Road over to NRG Park. And it gets you into the grounds anywhere except the stadium for the entire run of the show. So if you're able to go over and volunteer for a day and you want to come back another day just to go to the carnival or check out the exhibits, this will get you in anytime for the run of the show. One other thing I'll add is this calendar that Harrison has made up. We have a paper calendar here if you can sign up, but it's also live on the Harris County Beekeepers Association website. So if you see a slot that you might want to fill and you need to check with, well, I'll call my wife, she who must be obeyed, but if you need to check with significant other or somebody on whether those dates are clear, then you can go to the website and register on the calendar as well, and we'll get one of these to you if you do that.
Yeah, it's not an interactive calendar, but if you click on the link, that goes straight to my email, and I'll find out about it. If anybody's in the Master Beekeeper program, then this will count as public service credits also. And I believe everybody that signed up already has their badge. If not, come see me. But we'll be over at this table here and I guess after the meeting, so we don't
Yeah.
interrupt anybody, we know to come sign up.
It's perfect. Okay, thanks, Harrison.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, put this back on. Okay, we have, let's see, one more. Will has an announcement. Will, you need more of this again.
I don't need the mic unless it's.
Well, it's for the
broadcast.
people
Okay,
online.
cool. It's just I'm loud and stuff. Turn 90 degrees out of the way for me. Hey, I'm Will Sanders. I run a little urban organic joint called Dragon Horse Organics. I've got an urban farm a mile north of downtown, and I've been tasked by a nonprofit called the Black United Fund of Texas, in conjunction with the Seeds of the Soil, to put together a bee program. And so last year we bought a big old mess of bee gear, and they went out and chased after funding for programs and salaries and whatnots. Raise your hand if you're a member of the Facebook group, Houston Beekeepers Association. Okay, so who saw something from Dragon Horse Organics and went, what zone are you talking about? No. Okay, so I'm looking for 2 master beekeepers. We have funding for 20 hours a week, 12 to 13 months. You'll be teaching juniors. We're putting together an aggregation of 5 acres in a 5-mile radius around my farm. And the beekeepers, I hope, sleep within a 3-mile radius around my farm, because we're going to be going all over. The goal here is to teach the juniors and to make honey. The other side of it is we're aggregating 5 acres and applying for the agricultural exemption for bee placement through Harris County. So if you know anybody that sleeps in that zone, and where am I talking about? Look me up on Facebook, Dragon Horse Organics. Call me if you get lost, 713-487-6450. If you sleep within a 3-mile radius, I want to talk to you. If you know somebody that sleeps within a 3-mile radius, I want to talk to you. Where is that if you're just spitting? It's about 3/4 of a mile northeast of St. Arnold's Brewery, or my farm's a mile north of downtown. Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks,
I have
Will.
a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Juniors in high school?
Junior humans. So it could be anywhere age of 17 to 21 for one group, and then 21 to 30 in another group.
Oh, okay.
They can spell beekeeper mostly. Okay.
And this, you say you have funding, it's a paid position? For
Yes,
these
it's
guys?
2 paid slots. I need 2 master beekeepers.
Okay.
12 to 13 months, starting very soon now. Thank you.
All right. All right, one more thing before you, speaker. We have these nice T-shirts for sale. Got in a box up here. I think we can deal with cash and checks tonight. I don't think I know how to deal with the credit card. So these are like $20 a piece, so go on one of these. So our speaker tonight, Kyle Cosby from the Bee Supply, formerly Texas Bee Supply. And he's gonna be talking about, capturing swarms kind of. And probably other stuff about beekeeping as well.
Thank you. How long you been Yammer on?
Got till like 8:30.
All right. How y'all doing tonight? My name's Kyle Cosby. Like I said, I do work for the Bee Supply. I'm really excited about the Bee Supply, and the reason why we've changed the name of the Bee Supply is because we are going nationwide this year. Right now, we are opening our new store in Round Rock, and I'll be down there for a while. And then we are also opening a store in Florida and one in California. We still have one up north. So that's the reason for the name change. A little bit more about me. Camera's gonna bug me because I pace a lot. Reason in 1889, there's a picture of how many grapes that is, with a wagon, and there was beehives on it then. So we know we've been raising bees that long. Always glad to hear about the announcements that we have because now as my calendar fills up, I'm going, yeah, I'm teaching that one, and that one, working rodeo. So anyway, I'm really excited about that. I used to claim to be a commercial beekeeper, and I guess I still am, but my focus is changing. My commercial endeavors is basically just my 401k. I own quite a few bees, and they're out in California as it's supposed to be working. But now I've actually changed my own title, because now I claim to be a professional beekeeper. And the difference is a commercial beekeeper makes a living off bees. A professional beekeeper is lucky enough to be a hobby beekeeper that gets paid. And what I get paid to do is to be at places like this. I get to travel and talk to people, teach, and just basically talk about bees. So as he said, we're going to talk some about swarms tonight, preventing swarms. I'll touch on using swarms once you catch them, and some other topics. And then if we do have time, I'd rather yammer on about some different things. One of the more important things that I'm really hitting on this year is hive configuration. And just some other things. It's one of the reasons why I'm separating myself from being a commercial beekeeper, is because now that I'm teaching more, what I'm running into is hobbyists are being forced to raise bees the way the commercial guys raise bees. And I'm a fisherman, okay, as one of my other hobbies, because I get paid to do this one. And when I go out fishing, I'm not going to crawl on a tuna crawler and go out and fish like that, because that's not how I want to. Not that that's not a good way to fish, it's just not the way I want to fish. And so as we go into it, I'll talk more about that. Okay, catching swarms. Yeah, I'm going to differ there from most commercial beekeepers, because most commercial beekeepers, as us, we are bee breeders. And so the first thing that you find whenever you get a commercial guy, they say, what do you think about swarms? And the answer is stay away from them. Okay, because you're going to probably get bad genetics. You're definitely going to get some illnesses. You're going to get some other things. Well, my philosophy is catch them. Okay, the reason why I like to catch swarms is because it's free, and not that it's free as what people will tell you that it's free bees, because you can get free bees just about anywhere. What you can't get that a swarm will give you is free education. Anyone who's ever caught a swarm of bees know what you're about to walk into is bad genetics and a lot of illness, 99% of the time. There's a whole lot easier to make a mistake with a set of free bees than it is with a set of $400 bees. The treatment is exactly the same, okay? And so I can't tell you the value of what a swarm is. And as a hobbyist, I like to catch swarms. So before we get to swarms, we're going to get to the other side of beekeeping, and that is how do you keep your bees from swarming? This time of year is probably the hardest time of year to keep your bees from swarming. And the reason for that is because as a hobbyist, you have to decide, why did they swarm? Which one of the two entities inside of that hive that can invoke a swarm, which one of them invoked it? Did the queen invoke the swarm? Did she run out of room? Or did the colony run out of room and it invoked the swarm? The reason why that's so important this time of year more than any other time is because if the queen invoked the swarm will live together a considerably longer period of time inside the original hive than a hive that has been invoked by the colony. And so what you have to do in this time of year is, but what I say about swarms, a swarm's like a bullet. Once that bullet has been fired, I don't care what you do, you cannot catch that bullet again. Swarms are the same way. If that pheromone has been released inside that hive and that hive is going to swarm, it's going to swarm. Now, this time of year can be slower than it is in the springtime. Normally within the springtime, if it invokes a swarm, it'll swarm within 7 days. This time of year, that can be considerably longer. So what I would tell people to do this time of year, if you think your bees may swarm, you went out like so many of us this year, the weather's been nice, and you open that box and it's 90, 95% full, and you're seeing swarm cups, then that swarm is imminent. It's coming. So the first thing that I would tell you to do is lift that box up and put a medium box under it. What that will do is if the queen has spoke that swarm, she is less likely to truly swarm if she's got room under her. And if you can put room above her, and that's more to keep the colony itself from swarming. So that's the way we do it. Now, what you're always going to have to do if you're going to try to keep your bees from swarming is you do have to go in there and absolutely destroy every queen cup that's in there, especially the active ones. The things that you're looking for is if you're unfortunate and you find a queen cup that's already chewed. And one queen cup that's chewed is very obvious and still being smooth on the outside, it'll have little gummy spots around it. And that means that queen's already been released and you're going to have to find her. Okay, so then if that happens, or then you can add room above the bees if you don't have that problem, and it will keep your bees from swarming. Now then, how to catch a swarm. Funny thing about catching swarms, the more time that you spend raising bees, the easier it is to catch swarms. Me being the amount and over at the bee supply, as many hives as we have just sitting around that are dead, I literally have to keep them closed up to keep bees out of them, because the smell of those dirty boxes will bring swarms to them. The amount of pheromone in those empty dead outs, there's just bees coming. So how do you I would put a swarm trap somewhere close to your first choice. Be put a swarm trap somewhere close to where you're storing your old equipment. That's where the bees are going to want to go. The next place is you just put a swarm trap up somewhere. Hopefully that you see a path of the bees and bait it, and then they'll be there. Watch the swarm trap every 2 to 3 days and see when you catch one. When you catch one, now you have it. Okay. This is one. Let me stop right here. This is absolutely y'all's meeting. If you have any questions, please raise your hand. Okay. Anyone that's ever spoke to me very long at all knows that about 10 or 15 years ago, I had an accident, and I now have summer teeth. Some are there and some are gone. And so it's kind of hard sometimes to understand what I say. So if you have a question, raise your hand, trusting someone else has the same question. Okay, now then, you've got this swarm. Okay, now what do we do with it? This is one of those things that I'm really promoting this year. And it's again for the hobby market. So I think, in my opinion, anybody who has 5 or less hives should have one hive that they've caught as a swarm, or any other way that you have it. If you want 5 swarms, you actually need a 6th one. And your 6th hive, I'm still trying to be gentle on this word, because to me that hive is a sacrificial hive. The purpose in that hive is its parts. Okay. Like I said, I've lived on a farm since 1889. When you drive out my pasture, there's 20 old tractors out there. The reason those 20 old tractors have never went to the scrap yard is because they've got a part on them that I may need someday. Okay. If you've got a swarm, then you've got all the pieces that you need. You walk into your bees one day and you go, uh-oh, I don't have a queen. Yes, you do. She's right over there waiting to go in there. Because if you wait until you can make your trip to us at the bee supply, or you have to go to Weaver, or you have to go somewhere else, you're talking about days that hive is going to be queenless. In that time, that's working a problem for you, because in that time, the bees aren't going to stop. And so if they start making queen cups and they start doing these things, it makes that problem more and more and more. The longer that hive goes without a queen, the less success you're going to have introducing a new queen. So go over and get your queen, put her in that hive, and let her go to work. If that's not the genetics you want, you're already catching swarms. You already know how to do it. Go to Texas, go wherever you're going to get, buy your genetic queen, take your other queen, back over and put her in her hive. Let this hive here set 24 hours and drop her in there. She can go right back to work. That hive over there, it's already a swarm. If they swarm cup again, okay, catch them again. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Same thing. If you need brood, your hive, your queen doesn't get there in time, or you're having, that hive catches a little nosedive, you've got 10 frames of brood over there. That has no effect on you at all. Take that brood out. You don't have to worry about sacrificing your 5 strong hives. You already have the parts sitting over there. Catastrophically, you lose the entire hive. You have a dead apple. Oop, you drop the whole thing in there. Put your new queen in there, or run the queen you're running, and then you can restart that one over there on your next swarm. And I believe that number should be, what I normally run is, the reason I said 5, because I run 1 per 5. If my tax man says I need 15, I have 3 sacrificial hives at all times. Something happens, you always have the parts. That's what we do with it. Well, that didn't take long. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard them called resource hives.
That's the closer I get to Austin, the more often I use resource hives. Down here where we have farmers, I normally call them sacrificial hives. But yes, resource hives. Thank you for a good point. Yes, sir.
You had mentioned that equipment that's been used for beekeeping will attract based off the pheromone, but will that pheromone cause a swarm?
No. Nothing's going to cause a swarm other than the bees themselves. Okay, you can put a swarm trap on top of the hive, and that they're not going to pull away from their own mother. But when they do pull, they're going to pull. Okay. Generally speaking, the reason why a swarm swarms, you have, in my opinion, you have 3 basic rules. I mean, without going into a whole bee club, I mean, a whole bee class. Number 1 is if your brood chamber gets compromised, it gets shrunk down too far, it gets full of honey, then your queen runs out of room and she will invoke a swarm. Okay. If the bees themselves run out of room, she's making too many bees, and then the colony will vote the swarm. That's your 2 normal reasons. The third reason is what normally happens a lot of times. And that's the old, I know I'm going to die here, I may live out there mentality with the bees. If the bees get really sick or something really catastrophically goes wrong with the hive, they will abscond the hive just because they know they're going to die here. I tell a story back 2 years ago, when we had the isotopia, or whatever you call that thing, the 20-year storm down here in Houston. I had a man come into the store, and there was still ice on the road, and he says, my bees swarmed this weekend. I said, okay. No, they didn't. He said, yes, sir, I saw them do it. I said, well, they might have left, but they didn't swarm. So he said, well, how do you know? I said, this weekend, did you take your wife and kids camping without a tent? He said, God, no, there was snow 3 inches deep in my driveway. I said, neither did the bees. But if your house would have been on fire, maybe they would have flown out. But you're not going camping, your bees aren't either. And so that's what's happening. If those bees are leaving, especially in the wintertime, in the hard winter, it's that I know I'm dying here. That's the reason why they're leaving. Okay. So I did kind of rush through that. And if anybody have any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
This may be a little bit long, but I inherited a very healthy hive with 2 supers and 2 brood boxes. I don't really know what I'm doing, but I harvest the honey from the supers, and I came back from the winter thing and didn't see that much activity. Anyway, checked it. It's a dead hive. There's no queen. I actually have frames from everything. I don't know if you do necropsies on these dead bees to see if you can tell what they died of. But on a nice day, they're still going in and out. I don't know if they're robbing honey, and I have like frames still there. And I don't know, after this meeting last month, I bought another one because we're supposed to have 2. So I've got a brand new one, and this 2 and 2, that's an old dead one with honeycomb and all kinds of stuff going on. And I don't know which one I should try to get removed to go into or what.
Okay. Without looking at the frames, my first question is going to be, what were your Varroa mite numbers in October? There you go.
You didn't see. Okay, yeah, I guess you don't see it. I'm thinking of small hive, the Varroa mites.
Did you check? Okay, in my opinion, okay, and by some other men that I talk to pretty regularly. The three main concerns of a hive, of a beehive in this day and time is going to be the house, the wood they live in, nutrition, and Varroa mites. And if I literally told Blake this year, and I said it as a joke, but we kind of went with it a little bit, and that was our question. That we should post on Facebook in October, what was your Varroa numbers? And if your answer is, I don't know, then the next line of that should be, then order bees soon.
Can you tell that from dead bees? Because I've got a bunch of dead bees. Can you dust them or do anything?
No, ma'am, because the Varroa mites can't live without a host, so they're probably going to be dead. Now, if they've got bad wings, possibly, but I see a lot of people in here, and I know a lot of people in here that I see that are truly really good beekeepers, and I'd really like, but to have, if I had a hive that you're talking about that was strong enough to make a double honey super, and it was, 10 frames of bees, and I lost it, I can't right off the top of my head think of anything else that could kill a hive that fast. But did you take the honey from inside the deep box? Anyone else?
You left the supers on over winter?
No, she took them.
No, I did, because,
Too much space.
well, I thought they needed more space to go and have space to work. Okay, I don't know, so I should have.
So, but anyway, I don't mean to, but we'll never in a meeting ever go that everyone should have chemicals or whatever. That's never going, I'm never going to get in that argument with people. But what I will say is, okay, as I work for a company that's a tremendous queen breeder, okay? Went to the state convention, the national convention, I go to all of them. And I've sat on some of those breeder meetings, okay? And including the one who says that his bees are chemical free, I've sat in a meeting with him also. And what he's told us, that genetics, the best case scenario is genetics is 25% effective in Varroa mites, okay? So with that, I don't care if you want to go chemical. Matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why I'm changing from saying I'm a commercial beekeeper is because of the way we treat Varroa mites, okay? As commercial beekeepers, what we will tell you is that we treat Varroa mites on this date and this date. The reason that we do that is not necessarily that's the best way to do it, because of economics and the amount, when you treat the amount of hives that we run, you're talking about 7 to 8 guys working 12, 14 hours a day for 7 to 14 days, and to a cost of somewhere in the vicinity of, $70,000, $80,000. And so that's the reason why we treat the way that we do. What I tell people, hobby beekeepers, is you're looking for something to do with your bees. That's the reason why you have hobbies. And that's what we run into all the time talking to people when they come into the store, is they tell me, man, when can I go into my bees again? I want to go in my bees every 7 days. I want to go in my bees every 14 days. I want to work my bees. Well, that's my answer for you. If you want something to do with your bees and you don't want to kill your bees, put a sticky board underneath there. Put a sticky board under your bees every 6 weeks. Okay, a sticky board. So there's different ways to test for Varroa mites. In my opinion, the two best ways, most accurate ways, is the alcohol wash, and the other one is a sticky board. It's just it's like any other insect sticky board. It goes underneath your beehive and it catches the Varroa mites as they fall down on and you just count how many you have. Okay. Now then, I'm gonna back up here a little bit and tell the same thing. Okay, so last year at this time, I worked the Houston Rodeo last year, and I was over there on Tuesday. On Thursday, before that Tuesday, or Tuesday before that Tuesday. I was at the store and I'd been running a post hole digger and again, because of my accident, I told him at the store, I said, hey, I think I'm gonna leave her for just a second. I'm gonna run down here to primary care because my chest just doesn't feel right. So I go down to the primary care, my Reader's Digest is, because I really want to make a point. And they said, oh my God, you need to go to Houston right now. So I said, well, let me just call my wife. She can swing by and pick me up. They said, we've already called you a ride. Two guys coming by with a stretcher. I said, is that my ride? They said, no, sir, we're flying you to Houston. When I got to Houston, my heart was beating 208 beats a minute. Okay, and they told me that I was the sickest person on the cardiac ICU unit. So I said, yes, I know. And don't stick the shots in my side because they don't ever work. Go ahead and stop my heart, restart it, and we'll go back to work. I got stuff to do this next week. Actually, what I had to do was I had to go to the rodeo. So anyway, they do. And they stopped me and they got me back going. But anyway, I'll finish that story. So they told me to say, hey, Friday, we can fix you. We can go in and do this new procedure we've got. They've got a new procedure over there at Houston, and they were like, it's the greatest thing ever. We can fix you. I said, well, I'm not doing anything Friday anyway. I'm just laying here. So let's go ahead and do it. So he did my open heart on surgery. Actually, it was through my thighs. But anyway, he did it on Thursday or Friday. And he says, okay, I need you to do some bed rest for about, we're going to get you right, but about 2 to 3 weeks. We need you to do some bed rest. I said, well, that's a good idea, but except for Monday, I've signed up to work at Houston Rodeo and I've got to go work the rodeo for the Texas Bee Association. So he said, yeah, Monday is a big no-go, but I did make it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So, but anyway, the reason I told that long-winded story is because we always get in this story about, chemical, non-chemical, yada, both ways on the answer. I know what I look like, okay? But the reason why I'm off grid and the reason why I'm self-sufficient, all these other things is because I really am extremely health conscious, okay? My history is when you live up where I lived in Northeast Texas, if you work in the plants, you don't work in the chemical plants up there, you work in the food plants. So my entire career, I worked in food plants and I saw the chemicals they were feeding us. And so I went, I don't want none of that. And I sure don't want my kids to eat all that. So I don't eat any chemicals. I don't take any kind of medicine. Even today, even after I told you about my heart, I just refuse to take medicine. I don't do it. I eat very little red meat, eat my own red meat. I'm just really weird about what I put in my body. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you, when I laid over in that hospital for a week like this, they had an IV in each leg, in both arms and one leg. Trust me, that was not vitamin C they was pumping into me. Okay. If I'm not willing to put my life on the line because I won't put chemicals in me, and as soon as I get sick enough, I will put chemicals in me. I feel the same way about my bees. Okay. And here's reason why I went back to that. If you check your bees every 6 weeks or whatever, then you can catch your bees when they have a little cold. Okay. If you wait until you treat your bees twice a year, then what happens is your bees may need chemotherapy. Okay. You've got to get them and you've got to get them well. Okay. But you could have stopped it way back down here and you might have been able to run without chemicals. My word, if you're talking about 1 to 1,000, sprinkle some powdered sugar on there. It's not going to do much, but 1 to 1,000, you don't need much. If you're at 1 to 300, drop a green frame in there. Do a brood break. Take your queen out. There's all different types of ways you can manipulate that hive to do different things where you don't have to run chemicals if you catch it quick enough. And you're looking for a reason why to do it anyway, go ahead and catch it soon. Okay. Now here's the other one. Okay. And again, I never say anybody's names. There is a bee breeder out here, and this is critically important. Okay, there's a bee breeder out that says their bees are 100% chemical free. What they don't tell you is the fine print on that. On our farm, they're chemical free. Okay, what you don't realize about that farm is 5,000 acres. And the bee yard is in the dead center middle of it. And they have put restrictions on the land that you cannot own a beehive on that property. So yes, if they're controlling that entire 5,000 acres and those bees never leave, congratulations, you don't have Varroa mites. Okay, because your bees never were ever infected with them. The other example I give is back when I lived in McKinney. They have the state's largest dog park there. It's almost 10 acres. It's a Dogtopia. Okay. I raise miniature schnauzers. Some of the finest bloodline out there. That dog sleeps in my bed every night. I will assure you, you can dip that dog in alcohol and there's not one single tick on it. But if you take that dog to the dog park and you let it loose and let it play all day long, when it comes back, it's going to have ticks. It has nothing to do with their genetics. It has nothing to do with anything else. It's got to do with environment. Okay. That's what I believe. And people, yes, sir. All right, I bet you had a question. All right. All good. I was doing the same. All right. People's ever heard?
So we did have a question online asking about something you had mentioned earlier, but so they ask, is that what a suicide swarm is? So,
I've never heard of a suicide swarm, but I would say yes.
okay.
Because what that means is, if I don't know what the term is, what I would say is that's a hive that knows that it's not going to live. And so they leave because they know there's no choice, you know. Okay, so part of my spiel when customers come into the store, what I tell them to do is, if you get an opportunity, take an aerial picture of your bees and you put a dot dead center right where your bees are. And then you circle that with a circumference of 2.5 miles. You now have, because that's the flight pattern of a bee. Then you take a dot and you make a dot everywhere else in that aerial map that you can find a beehive. Circle with 2.5 miles. If your circles look like this, what I will assure you is you're the greatest beekeeper of all times. Because you won't have Varroa mites or very low Varroa mite numbers. You won't have small hive beetles. You won't have robbing, all the other problems that people run into. Unfortunately, very few people have that unless you're in the opportunity where you can own 5,000 acres. So what you will have normally, if you see that, is you'll have what I call a spider leg. You've got all this land over here and you got a hive here, a hive here, a hive here, a hive here. And that spider leg may take off 5 miles or 10 miles down through there. Well, if 10 miles away, that hive gets ran over by Varroa mites, that hive gets sick, the next hive is stronger, they're going to overrun it, they're going to get Varroa mites, they're going to get Varroa mites, they're going to get Varroa mites, boop, they got yours. Okay, so as a hobby beekeeper, here's what I tell people is, check your bees every 6 weeks. If you can go 6 months, 8 months, and you don't have any Varroa mites, then you're probably in a pretty good location. Back that test up where you check every 12 weeks or every 16 weeks. And you know, maybe you are in a place where you don't have that problem. I am scanning the room here because there is a lady that almost became famous where I travel. I am what we call the bee detective at Texas Bee Supply. What that means is if you have problems with your bees, I come to your house and I make a house call. How that started was a lady that lives in Houston. Her name is Diane, super, super sweet lady. And I was in the warehouse one day and just sat back there and they said, "Hey, Cal, will you take this phone call? This lady is just beside herself." I said, "Sure." And literally, this woman's crying like a 3-year-old girl that just lost her puppy. And she says, "Kyle, I'm just at the end of my ropes. I've been raising bees 4 years and I've never made a crop of honey. Every year I get almost a honey season, my bees just collapse and they die." I said, "Well, you know, I'm running through the different scenarios. Hey, what's this, and this? And she says, I wish I could just get somebody to come see them." I said, "Okay." I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll come look at your bees." And she said, okay, that sounds great. I work Monday through Friday. Can you come on Saturday? I said, no, ma'am. I don't normally work on Saturdays, and Saturday's my day with my family. So again, she's crying. I can't do it. So I said, sure. So it was going to be about 2 to 3 weeks before I actually got up to see her. And as I was talking to, a couple of days later, she called and says, hey, would you mind if my neighbor came? I said, no, I don't care. A couple of days later, goes, hey, I've got another neighbor. A couple of days, got another neighbor. Come to find out, I'm gonna have 5 people at my now beginner bee class. So I show up and I'm sitting on the trunk of my car and I put my bee suit on, zipping it up, getting ready, trying to think about what I may be about to see. And literally I watch these people and they're walking to me. So as we're out there, we're glancing at different things about the hive, and I finally asked them, I said, so what's your Varroa treatment plan? Nope. We don't have a plan. I said, well, what are you doing? Nothing. So I said, okay, I know Diane's been raising bees 4 years. So I started asking them, how long is your bee experience? All of them been raising bees anywhere from 2 to 6 years. So how much honey you making? None. Every year we get to about the same spot and our bees die. In April, we've ordered new bees. We've ordered Dura bees. We've ordered Weaver bees. We've ordered Cripple Creek bees. Everybody in the world's got a little piece of these. So I said, here's the problem, okay? You have that problem that I'm talking about. Diane would go out and buy bees. She'd feed them. She'd get them built up to a double D. But the people that literally live 2 houses down, they wasn't. So their bees would get Varroa mites. Somebody would get Varroa mites or bring Varroa mites in, and then they would kill everybody else's hives, and everybody's bees would die the same year. Literally, the only thing I did was, hey, I don't care what plan you do, put a Varroa treatment plan in action. Okay, I've got several different options. 4 of the 5 made a honey crop this last year. The other lady, she said, I won't do that. Her bees are still dying every year. Okay. Diane right now has got, I was talking to her earlier today. She's going to make a split this year. Her bees are going, and that's literally the only difference that she did on her bees. So, okay. Now then, one more exciting news is, so probably in my opinion, one of the most accurate tests, and especially hobby beekeepers want to stay away from it, is the alcohol wash. The alcohol wash, as for detection, is the best. But everybody knows, especially hobbyists, the problem with that is every time you check your bees, you are going to kill 200 bees. That's a bad day. Okay. The reason why I tell new beekeepers, do not do an alcohol test, because you are going to take those 200 bees directly out of the center of your brood chamber. Guess who else lives in the dead center middle of your brood chamber? If you kill your queen, it doesn't matter how high the Varroa mite numbers are, because your hive is now in a whole different problem. So what I told people was, the reason why I told them, until you are proficient enough, because when you pick that frame out of the center, they're not just going to hang out. They're going to be moving, trying to fly. They're going to be, because you got to be doing that pretty quick. So you've got about 30 seconds to look at that frame before the bees basically, if not, you're empty the box trying to get enough bees in there to get a Varroa mite test. So AccuCheck finally did listen, and they came out with a new CO2 injection. And so what you'll do with a new CO2 injection, you'll use the exact same cup. You pump a predetermined one little squirt of CO2 into the hive, squeeze it, shake your bees, all the Varroa mites fall off. You put your bees, you dump them back in the top of the hive, and no harm, no foul. If your queen gets in there, no harm, no foul. Little bit known fact, and now then they're finally releasing it, because everybody always worries about that. Just so you know, about 99% of the queens that are bred, if they're AI bred, they are puffed with a puff of CO2 to calm them down before they AI. So most of the bees, most of the queens that you have in your hives have already been induced to CO2. It has no effect on them whatsoever. Okay. Actually, a queen that has been sprayed, we found a queen that is sprayed with CO2 will lay eggs approximately between 18 and 24 hours faster than one that's not. It's probably because of the stress level on it. So I would still suggest that you find your queen when they do they released them, and now they found out that there's a little problem with them, so they called them back, but it is coming. So if you do want the new CO2 applicator, it is in there if you feel more comfortable with it. It doesn't kill your bees. So that's a really tremendous thing that's happened in the bee world. It's probably one of the most exciting things that's happened in the bee world lately. Okay. I'm still got some time. Good. Okay, so this is another one. This is another one of my major soapboxes this year. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the alcohol on a sticky trap. What's the criteria to determine that you need to treat?
Okay. So this time of year, it's 11 mites. The number, again, it's pretty easy to remember because it's 11 and 7. 11 in the spring, 7 in the winter. I always remember that because it's 7-11. I'm not very smart, but 11 mites. But as a hobby beekeeper, 11 mites is about 2 to 100. So that's pretty high numbers. So I would treat, I taught a class this last weekend. Our numbers were a little higher than that. But I would tell you, if you see a Varroa mite, do something.
Is that 24 hours?
24 hours. And the other key to that, to a sticky board test that people don't understand is, I tell people, if you're going to install a sticky board, do not put protection on. Okay. And anyone, again, who's ever heard me speak knows I preach protection. Okay. The reason I preach protection, I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. Anybody who says, I don't want to wear protection, I do want to wear protection, I don't care. Here's my opinion on protection. My bee suit is not protecting me from my bees. My bee suit protects me from my bees from me. Okay. My bees are less likely to sting me, so I don't lose the bees that do sting. My bees don't know my wife's new detergent. My bees don't know my cologne. They don't know all that stuff. What they do know is that big white puff that walks by there, it smells like smoke. They know what that is, and they don't bother me as much. My bee suit, for y'all who wear bee suits, I don't know if y'all got a cool bee suit, but mine's hot. Okay, so I don't wear my bee suit anywhere else other than my bee yard. So my bee suit only goes from my truck to my bee yard and back to my truck. It stinks. So I roll it up and I actually put it in a plastic bag because my wife says it stinks. So I try to put it in my car even. So that is as organic of a situation as I can possibly have walking to my bees. I'm not going to bring anything to my bees. Okay. So, but anyway, the reason why I tell you not to wear protection is because that's how much I want you to violate that hive. If you put that into the bottom of that beehive, especially if you run a Varroa bottom, if you put that into the back of that beehive and without protection, you have no reason to open that lid. Okay. The reason why you don't want to open that lid is because if you put that sticky board in there after you've done a hive inspection, you fed, what other reason that you need to be in that beehive, the bees are going to be very agitated. They're going to be very active. While they're active and moving around with that, they're going to drop Varroa mites. So your numbers will be elevated. Okay. If you want an accurate test, do not violate that hive. Slip the sticky board in and walk away. Okay. One more thing about that is I'm cheap and I use the sticky board over and over and over. If I have 5 hives, I don't buy 5 sticky boards. I buy 1. I buy a sticky board. I bring it out. Yes, I'm this cheap. And I circle all my Varroa mites. Then I stick it in the number 2 hive. I bring it out. I circle all my Varroa mites because I'm cheap. When I get through checking about 5, by that time it's so dirty that it needs to be thrown away, and I throw it away. Okay. Now I wouldn't keep it if you only have 1 hive or 2 hives. You're going to have to throw it away over time because it's going to catch stuff. Okay. So that's the criteria on that. All right. So here's my other one. Okay, and again, as I've been traveling around and speaking and all the other things, I try to find out what it is that's making hobby beekeepers go away from raising bees. Almost 100% what I'm hearing is, man, that hive just got heavy. I just can't pick up 100 pounds no more. Or why are you not treating for Varroa mites? Well, because I've got to crack both those boxes. I've got to get down to the bottom. And then I've got,
We have Andrew Ward that has a question. Andrew.
I'm sorry, I should have just typed it in, but I just back to the sticky board. How long do you keep it under before you check? Obviously, if you keep it under a week, you're gonna have more counts. So how long would you keep it under?
it's a 24-hour test.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
If you got a top bar hive, how do you test it? Sticky board don't work.
They won't work. Top bar hives just run into a lot of problems with, I mean, I love them. My son runs them. He lives up in Maine and he runs them. He loves them. I want to say if I was running a top bar or even a long lane, I would have to do an alcohol test, unfortunately. That would be I'm open for anyone who's got a suggestion on how to do it, but I don't know of any way to check one accurately without doing
Powdered
more.
sugar roll doesn't kill bees. Use powdered sugar roll instead of alcohol.
Yeah.
Like they're ready to be chicken blood or something.
But it does help them, and so he's talking about running that, or you can wait and literally within the next 2 weeks, they'll have the CO2 sprays. So like I said, the powdered sugar will work, and that's how it works on very low numbers. It doesn't kill the Varroa mites. All it does is when they're grooming themselves, they rake them off. The other thing that I always do, and I always teach it because I'm getting old and I can't hardly see, a beehive has a built-in test in it. Okay. Because of the way bees are just the way bees are. You got 16 days. Yes.
So Steve Smith is asking, who all carries the CO2 test now?
No one.
Okay.
Because they just released it, the same AccuCheck is who produced it, and they had a recall on them. The way it's the same CO2 cartridge that goes in like a pellet gun or whatever. And when the prototypes that we all got to carry back when they were asking for field tests, when they changed them over to manufacturing, the threads were off or something and it wouldn't crack the CO2 test. So they've been released to the public, but they brought them back. And now they say within a couple of weeks, we'll all have them again. And at that time, everybody will have them. We'll have them, Man Lake will have them. Most all Daydan will have them. Everybody that carries AccuCheck will have them.
16, you said 16.
Okay, thank you. Queen, 16 days, worker 21, met drones 24. Okay. So by the way that Varroa mites work, when they come in, they lay a male. Every 3 days after that, they lay a female in the same cup. So Varroa mites are incredibly smart little creatures. They figured out that they can lay in drones, they can have one more Varroa mite by the time they hatch. So what I do is, and again, it's not an accurate test. I'm just telling you it's a good sign for you because you already got them in one. When you bust your boxes apart or anytime you find drone comb, cut your drones out and look at them. If your drones look like they've got black pepper on them, you need to do something. And you can pretty well tell, especially over some time, you can get a pretty good idea how many Varroa mites you got, because if you open 10 drones and all of them got them on there, then you've got a pretty high mite number. But if you just got 1 or 2 in there, and again, who cares if you lose a drone? They eat 3 times as much as a female. They don't forage, they don't do anything. So I don't care if I kill all of them. I just scratch them out. But like the ones, especially the ones that new beekeeper goes, oh my God, my hive's got maggots in it. Yeah, those are the perfect ones because you've already opened them up and they're easy to look at. So look at those and see if you've got little Varroa mites on them. And then you'll know where that is, okay? So now what am I, yes, sir.
When you're in there, if you would poke every drone cap with the bees, clean that out.
Mm-hmm. Now,
Cause I was in there today and I saw a dozen of them.
yes and no. They will clean them out. Okay, because most everybody's bees now are BSA. Okay, so they'll clean them out. But that is one thing you need to look at though, because if that comb is odd shaped, like it's a drone bird comb of some kind, even if it's on a sail, and it's big, she won't lay a female in there. That's the reason why a green frame works, because they're the size of drones, and all of them will be drones. Okay, they, no matter how long you leave it in there, they'll always be drones. And this time of year, you see a high drone number outside of your brood chamber. Those are insurance policy. All that's far, those bees that are the drones that are outside of that brood chamber, they're not intended to be bred. Those are insurance policy. In case that hive gets into cluster and it gets cold, the cluster will move up onto the female and it'll leave all those drones on the bottom. And as they freeze, they'll swell and shut the air off to the bottom of that hive. People wonder how your hives survive in the winter, how they do that, because when you look in there, those dead drone cells are down there on the bottom and they're frozen. Okay. One more big topic I'm going to talk on, then I'll let y'all do whatever y'all want to do. And that's my newest soapbox this year, and it's on hive configuration. As a commercial beekeeper, my guys that are out in the field, they're 20 to 25 years old. They're little bulls, and they don't care if they have to pick up a double D. So when you're looking at a double D, and that especially the next time you got to pick up that box that weighs up close to 100 pounds, think of this. Okay, whenever I look at a beehive, I think of numbers. Okay, the frame closest to you is frame 1. Okay, I don't care what the frame is, it's just the closest one to you. That frame is almost always completely empty. There's just nothing out there. 1 in 10, they may be a little honey on them, but generally they're empty. 2 and 9, you got honey. 3 and 7, you've got some honey, some pollen and that kind of stuff. The center 5 is going to have brood on it. A brood chamber is circular like this. So if you're looking at a beehive, the top box, your brood chamber looks like this. On the bottom side, it looks exactly the same, but it goes this way. Honey's above it, honey's below it. So my math teacher said, it's pretty simple math. 5 on the top and 5 on the bottom, that's 10. Okay, mathematically, there is 6,500 rough cells on each side of a D frame. It's 12,000 per D. If you multiply 2,000 eggs a day times 21 days, you will not get more than about 11 frames of bees. That's all she can have laying at any given moment if she lays the entire frame. Okay. So what I'm telling people to do, and I'm not the only one, there's people way smarter than me that came up with this idea. I just jumped on it and went, hey, that sounds like a good idea. And I've tested it. So what I'm doing now is running what's called a story and a half. You run 10 frame on the bottom. Here's the key. You've got to put a queen excluder on there. You put a queen excluder, keeps her in that bottom box, gives her that entire bottom box. The next trickiest thing for new beekeepers is, because people will say, you need 40 pounds of resources for a beehive to make the winter. Luckily, a medium holds 40 pounds of honey. Pretty simple arithmetic. So if you put a deep box, queen excluder, and a medium box, and now then she fills that medium box completely full of honey, the bottom box is completely full of brood. Now you know exactly how much brood you have because she's going to own that entire bottom box. That medium box that's sitting on top of it, she can't come up there. She can't lay eggs, so they're going to fill it completely full of honey. If that box is full, that hive is self-sufficient for the year. You don't have to do any tricky math. You don't have to go, oh, this frame here and this frame here. I think that's 20 pounds. I think this is 20 pounds. Because what happens is we run them short. We always give them way too much honey.
So you were running a 10 and a super.
Yeah. A 10.
Because actually, this really big guy on the internet, he does that, but he doesn't use a queen excluder.
If you don't use a queen excluder, she's just gonna move up into that meat.
He says they get up a little bit, but they get that honey break, and he says, I never have it in my second super.
Do you have to worry that in the winter time, if you do use the medium for the honey, that the actual other bees will go up and then leave her down on the?
They won't leave that brood chain. I've never seen bees that will move away from the brood chain. No, now but the nurse bees, they're gonna stay on that brood chain. Okay. Some of the benefits that I've seen from doing this. Number one, let's start with that one. It takes that weight off of it. Okay. Because all you have to do is pick up a honey super. Most anybody can pick up a honey super. Okay. First thing is that makes keep raising bees a whole lot simpler. Number two, you don't have to guess about how much resources you got. You don't have to guess about how much brood you got. So it's very simple to count them. What I've seen, and I'm going to run more tests this year, what I've seen is with that queen, with those colonies basically being separated, the queen's trapped down below and her colony is above, my swarm rate plummeted because she always has enough room. Above that, instantly you're making honey. No one has problem putting the honey super on for me to get more honey. So it's more likely for people to run more honey supers on top of it. Yes, sir.
Can you do that with 8s? I run 8s because I've had 2 back surgeries.
You can.
Is there a problem?
Not really. She may be a little bit more likely to swarm, but probably not. She's going to slow. And what actually it'll do is that also is another thing about and I haven't tried it. Okay. But again, I'm telling you about what I'm seeing in 10 frames. And that is that it slows her down just a little bit. A double deep, the reason why commercially we run double deeps is because that's that hive wide open. That's running it as hard and as fast as that dude will go. What I tell people is if you drive your car 100 miles an hour everywhere you go, on Sunday, you're going to work on it. If you drive at 55 miles an hour, then you work on it every 3 to 4 months. Bees are the same way. If you drive that queen hard, things happen fast. And so that's another thing. Slows her down just a little bit. I believe that's all it's going to do is just slow her down a little bit. And slow her down as a hobbyist, you're not really going to notice it. So, but you can. More benefits. Varroa mite treatments, or if you do have to go chemicals, are very expensive. You run a double dig and you're running Avivar, that's 4 strips. You're running one brood box, it's only 2. So I cut your treatment cost in half. If you need to find your queen, she's always in that bottom box. You don't have to guess. She's right down there. You want to do a split, you don't have to guess. Take 5 out of this one and 5 out of that one, you've got a split. So, and those are the things about that makes that a whole lot better. Okay. Now I will tell you, it's going to cost you just a little bit of honey. But as a hobbyist, I'm talking about enough honey. That means one person that you didn't really care got any honey or not, probably not going to get it this time. The honey you were just trying to give away was already crystallizing. That honey you're probably not going to make now. Okay. But people, your family, and you're not going to short yourself. Now, one other thing, and this came from last year's big spiel for me, especially running a story and a half. I'm going to run a hole above my queen excluder. And anytime I run a queen excluder, I like to run a hole above it. I always tell when I was this big, my granddad didn't have much to say ever. And I asked him one time, I said, Granddaddy, why do we not run queen excluders? He said, boy, that thing will cost you 10 pounds of honey. Shut up and go on. Okay. So I never asked again because 10 pounds of honey to a commercial beekeeper, that's truckloads of honey. Okay. So we got on and I ran with that my whole life. People would ask me, you run queen excluders? Nope. Why not? It costs you honey. And I've seen it, it does. I'm telling you, it will. So I got lucky. And so I had some people that said, hey, well, I want to see these different configurations. I want to see how these different ways work. So I literally said, I want to be smart. I went, yes, Kyle. I said, it's going to cost about 10 pounds of honey per hive. You're on a queen excluder. I don't have to run that test. I said, why don't you go ahead and run the test anyway? So I did. So I run different hive configurations. I run with queen excluder. Run inside of the queen excluder. I've got 10 frame, got 8 frame, got double deeps, got the story and a half. So I've got all different types of things. Then down on the bottom, again, the people that's ever heard me speak say that a entrance reducer makes a perfect paint stirrer. Other than that, I can't think of a reason in the world anybody would run a queen excluder. An entrance reducer. So I said, I don't want to worry about that either. So, but I had to. So I ran the big opening, the little opening, I closed it completely off, ran no entrance reducer. All these different things. Okay. Really and truly, I'm telling you, crow is really not that bad. Okay. Now in the last couple of years, I've ate quite a bit of it. It's really not too bad. So now then, my configuration. Okay. So what I do is I like to run the small hole. And the reason for the small hole is that way your drones can get out. If you don't, a drone can't go through a queen excluder and the drones will overrun your hive. So you got to be able to let them out. I like the small hole because again, there's less bees down there to protect it, all these other things. The hole above was the big key to this because it was enough of a, wait, hold on now. I don't want to eat crow 3 times a day. I'll eat a little bit, but why does that happen? So I ran a camera down in. Here's what I saw. And this was the big aha moment for me that I went ahead and ate my crow. Was a bee coming in from foraging, comes in, goes through a brood chamber, through the queen excluder, through into a honey super at best, sometimes through a honey super and on up. They're so efficient that some of them are lazy. And when they come into that brood chamber, they go, that's a good spot. And they start dumping honey in that brood chamber. And so, yes, I'm going to say that probably 2 pounds of that honey just doesn't make it. It makes it into that brood chamber. But what I saw was, as I watched it, while my bees were on that pinnacle, when they should have been raising more bees than they ever raised before, my numbers should have been higher than they ever were. When I ran a queen excluder without a top hole, my numbers kind of dropped down. I wasn't growing near the amount of bees. And what that is, because those bees were dropping in that brood chamber, my brood chamber was shrinking. So what that did was when I put that top hole in there, most of the bees, especially the forager bees that are coming in with the honey, a honey gut full of honey, they're meeting those worker bees that are going to actually deposit that honey at that top hole. And they're going in there and they're going to fill that top hole up. They're still going to go down and take care of their brood because there's got to be somebody behind them to take care of. So they're going to take care of that. They'll go down, but not all of them go through there. A lot of them just go straight up top. And so what I'm saying is when you're running that configuration, my brood chamber is actually getting bigger during that time. So I'm running about 20% more bees coming out of that pinnacle, which is about 15% more bees I'm taking into winter. Again, which is about 10% more bees I'm bringing out of winter. So it made my hive stronger. Yes, sir.
So that top, what's the diameter of the top hole? How big?
I see Facebook. What I'm actually running on my supers and only cut a hole in one hole. I don't know what that thing is actually called. You're probably the one to answer this. There's a dial that top bar guys run, and it's a flat piece of steel about that big around, and it's got a hole in it about that big around. It's actually 1.25 inches hole. Yeah. And then it's got one that's got a queen excluder on, one's got a vent, one's closed. That's the 4 holes.
So you run on the bottom of the second.
Yeah, I run that big hole and I cut it out with a hole saw. And then I just spin it over to whatever I'm trying to do. When I'm trying to close it down for the winter, I close it all the way down. Sometimes I'll leave it open for ventilation or different things. But that's how I run it. and that's the hole I ran. And so I don't know that the hole would make a difference because I've seen bees close them up in the wintertime. I would just drill a hole that you have some way to close it. Run it the size of a cork. If you've got corks laying around out of a wine bottle, drill a hole that big so you can stick a wine core hole in there so you don't lose your wax in the wintertime, you know, when you're pulling your honey supers back off. So that's going to be the big deal is you want some way for those bees to get in through the top. And that was.
You indicated earlier that you run 10 frames in the brood chamber in this configuration.
I run 10 frames in that just because I'm trying to give them as much room as possible. You're going to have enough honey in that top box that you're not going to need to feed them anyway. On feeding your bees. Again, one of the other things that I've kind of changed this year, and again, crow's really not that bad. In the past, people used to come in and they would ask, what do you think about sugar bricks? And my answer was always very same. Sugar bricks are great up north. But we don't have a hard enough winter down here to run sugar bricks. We don't have a hard enough winter to run fondant. There's tops. You're talking about 2 or 3 weeks. It's cold enough you can't feed syrup, especially down in southeast Houston. Now then, we started making a new brick, and I hated it when we started, but I now love it. And it's not the sugar. What I call the sugar bricks now, the yellow ones. Anyone that's got all the other additives added to it, they've got Super Bee Healthy and pollen and all the other things in them. I call it the Mary Poppins brick because what that is a teaspoon of sugar to get the medicine to go down. Okay. If your bees die, the reason why your bees die in wintertime is not Varroa mites. Okay. The Varroa mites got in your hive during Varroa mite season and they make your hive sick. Then in the wintertime, could be up to 6 months later, the diseases that the Varroa mites gave your bees killed your bees. About 85% of those attack their gut health. So if you can fix the bees' guts and they don't have all the gut problems, then your bees will make it through. Okay. And so that's the reason why now then what I'm telling people is after the first 6 months, your bees are on the property. Okay. Once you get an established hive and it lasts 6 months, from that moment on, if you don't violate that, if you do not violate her honey, you don't divide that, you don't cross that international divide line. If you run a story and a half, you leave that 40 pounds of honey on top of those bees. Your bees should never need to be fed. If your bees need to be fed, there was a problem before that. So you need to back up, find out what that problem was. Again, we all know about 90% of the time it's Varroa mites. You need to fix their gut health. Now, once you get them fixed again, now then they're sick. Okay, that's a different story altogether. Now then, what I would suggest you do is if you feed them some stuff, Super Bee Healthy and some other things to fix their gut health, let them eat that sugar brick or however you can get them to eat that stuff. Then after they eat that and their gut health is back, then yes, you may have to give them some syrup. Okay. But if you're on top of your bees and you know your Varroa mites aren't offline, you don't go queenless too long and all the other things, that hive should be self-sufficient. Yes, ma'am. You have a question? Okay. So I'm always excited when I see somebody flinch a little bit. I'm like an auctioneer. I'm always hoping somebody's going to ask a question. But anyway, so that's my opinion is if your bees are sick, if you just throw syrup on them, you may or may not save that hive. There's hives all the time that die that's completely full of honey. Or they're completely full of syrup, or they're completely full of whatever. They were already dying. That was just the end. That was the last indicator they gave you is we're no longer able to be self-sufficient. If they are self-sufficient, they should be. And people say, oh, well, I've got too many bees in my neighborhood. Okay. Right now, the bees are in California. There's 20 beehives every direction that you can look on pallets. And they're thriving. Them beehives right now, we're already putting supers on. Them dudes are growing. So unless you've got a commercial aviary in your neighborhood, you're not running them out of beef. You're not running them out of food. There's something else going on with that hive, the reason why you're running problems with it. Okay. So, let's see, what else can we talk about?
Is that a whole nother lecture or a 2-day class?
What's that?
What could possibly be wrong?
No,
Short list.
it's pretty short. In my opinion, the Varroa mite is pretty much, that's pretty much your answer. Okay. Or the different problems that mite causes. And the same thing, people say, oh, well, but what about small hive beetles? Small hive beetles are still vultures. Okay. The only way that small hive beetles become an active pest is because either you made a bad decision or you didn't have a choice in making a good decision. You put a beehive in the shade. Okay. The reason why running a beehive in the shade is a problem because bees travel on the sun. Okay. If the shade is on your hive until 10 o'clock in the morning, well, the hive that's out here in the sun, they woke up at 6. They started flying at 6. These bees down here in the dark, they didn't start working until 10. You ever have a question if that's true? If you got bees on you walking in a bee yard, walk into a dark area and see the bees will fly into it. They won't. They will be less active. Same thing in the afternoon. My hive goes into full shade at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Well, you shut 3 hours of daylight off of it. So that's the reason. If you get that, especially if you get that down where they don't have shade, they don't have sun till 10 and they lose the sun at 3, they're only working about 5, 6, they're only working half a day. So she can only work, she's only making eggs half a day. That hive's going to be weaker. And that's what's going to make them have a small hive beetles. Okay. So that's where the main problems are coming in is. And so wax moths again is a vulture. That's a symptom to a problem. People say, oh, I lost my hive of wax moths. No, you didn't. What was your Varroa numbers in October? There's your answer. That's the reason. Yes, you didn't go into your hive in September and you went on down. Okay. There was another thing that I used to tell people all the time, again, commercially. I treat for Varroa mites on February 4th and July 4th. February 4th, that's 42 days before I need to put a honey super on. July 4th is the day I harvest my honey most of the time. That's the reason why I put it back on there. Okay. This last year, we had an unusual experience. And so I had to now change that. And it goes especially in the hobbyists. People say, I don't want to test. Can you just give me 2 days that I can treat? And my answer was always the 4th and the 4th. Until this last year, or that crow eat. Because what happened this year, if you'll think back, okay, when we harvested honey on July 4th, it was ooey dry. All the pollen had dried up and been dry for a long, long time. By the time July 4th came along, the time we actually harvested honey. So we went in there, we harvested honey. Everybody did as they were supposed to, and they dropped their treatment in there, whatever treatments they were. And they locked those hives down because ooey, it was hot, and ooey, it was dry. 43 days later, we got our first substantial rain of the year. All those trees are nature. As soon as that rain hit them, we got some moisture, boom, they bloomed again. They dumped all that pollen on them. The bees went out, they went foraging, the bees came back, the pollen count came up in the hive. Guess what else happened? That queen was waiting. She went to throwing eggs in there. Your treatment had already passed. So what happened was I'd ask that question. Did you treat for Varroa? It looks to me like you got Varroa mites. That's not possible, Kyle. I just pulled the avivar strips out. But you put avivar strips in that hive in a broodless hive, or a hive that had very little brood in it. And so what happened is, because you were working on that set number, you had that false security of, I've treated, my bees are good. No, that wasn't the case. When that rain came back in, and actually the only reason, let me be honest with you, the only reason it saved my hives is I'm the bee detective. And I was going out and checking lots and lots of dead hives. And I was like, and I've got a customer up in Austin, the lady who won the Texas bee honey contest this year at state is a bee customer of mine. And I know that woman's treatment plan. If those bees might need anything, they get 2 of them. I mean, she's got a tote of syrup outside. It only has 10 hives. So these bees are miraculously taken care of. When I got up there, she had these mite numbers that were way up here. So I asked her what happened, and she told me, man, I treated. Here we are. And so as I started following through the state, that's what I was seeing. More and more people in the same answer, the same thing. I had a set treatment, and I was here, and we treated a broodless hive. So instead of checking their bees, we just assumed, and that's the reason why I tell people don't assume. Keep checking those bees. Check your bees, especially if there's a huge weather change. About 10 more minutes. Questions? You're good? All right.
Gonna be able or available after all this is done?
Absolutely. You know me. Y'all know I'll stand around and talk forever. I'm just gonna let the people who don't want to listen to me yammer on.
The only thing is at 9 o'clock, you have to move outside.
Yeah, the ones that ever been to the store to the bee club, I don't mind walking outside. I tell my wife when I left this morning, I'll be back. That's all, and she knows that's all. And she's traveling with me this weekend. She knows that it's always embarrassing when my wife comes and she's asleep in the back of the room. I always act like I don't know who she is, but she's heard me talk lots of times. She's already heard all my yammering. So, but anyway, guys, here's the thing I'm telling you is bees are extremely fun. Okay, they're really easy too, and I always leave on the same note. If you're in this room, you're on the right track. Okay. Whenever we see a customer pull into the parking lot and we go, oh, that's a Gonzalez's. Almost 100% we're celebrating their successes. Whenever we go in and we go, what was it? I think I saw those people one time and maybe not. Then when they walk in, I've got a list of stuff this long. They go, I got this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. And I'm not saying that we're all that good. The people in this room will tell you the same thing I just told you. The people that are here every month and they're like, hey, I've got this problem, I've got this problem, I've got this problem. Those are the ones that are having success. The people that you see twice a year, they're not having any success, okay? Bee clubs are crucially important. There's a vast amount of information in here, okay? Use that information, use the community and make it a benefit, okay? Don't be ashamed to ask a question. Yes, sir.
Okay, if you had a dry spring where you don't have much bloom, would there be benefits of feeding to get the count up so when they finally get the rains that your bee count's high, or is that false?
No, you can. And again, that was the old wives' tale that people that even I used to say too. Is people used to ask me, what about feeding in the wintertime? And I always said, well, if you're going to feed in the wintertime, you're taking responsibility for that bee, because if she makes too much brood and you're going to have to worry about this. And actually, Blake asked me one time, he says, you ever had that problem before? You ever came out of winter with too many bees? No, I really haven't. So that's really not a problem. So yes, you could feed your bees. If you see that brood count start dropping, then yeah, you can start adding some more brood to it and add some more protein to her and increase your bees just to get more brood coming, and you don't get them cannibalizing either.
Related to that, how long would you leave your sugar bricks on for?
I let them eat them.
So just leave the shim, it's okay to just leave the shim on and.
Yeah, just leave them. And I feed again. I'm even disagreeing, and we're carrying stands, and I even kind of disagree with him. And I'm going to say that I'm going to have sugar bricks on my truck in July. If I come out to a hive and I think that hive's sick, I'm going to put a sugar brick on. The bees are going to eat that sugar. Okay. Now after that, I'm probably going to tell them to put some more syrup on them to give them back. But the original, I'm on a doctor, and the doctrine is in that medicine. It's in there. Okay. All right, y'all, I'm gonna step out here for a second. Thank you so very much for allowing me to come tonight. Call me and I'll come back. But thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Phil.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a couple more things to do here. First, my glasses, there they are. Just reminders of things to put on your calendar. And that is Harris County Beekeepers next Tuesday. Rodeo start next Tuesday through the 19th of March. Sign up with Harrison in the back over here. Then we have our next meeting on March 21st. We'll talk about Varroa mite management. Actually, Harrison will be here to talk about that. And then on June 17th is Texas Beekeeper Association, their summer clinic. And then Saturday, September 9th is the Brazos Valley Beekeepers Association Fall Beekeeping School, which is also another good 8-hour one. Yes, ma'am.
April 1st is the Brenham High School Central Texas Beekeepers.
Oh, it is? Okay, we didn't get that. Okay, April 1. That's even come sooner, so yeah. We'll put that in our next, we'll put that in the sketch. That's a good one too. Yeah, that's a really good one. Okay, so now we're gonna do numbers to pick who gets we have 8 door prizes back here. And then after that's done, for people who are very, very new to beekeeping, for the mentor mentee program, I'm gonna go over personal equipment and just a basic blank stuff, what it is and some of the stuff. And then Chris, maybe could you maybe be our t-shirt seller? And we can sell t-shirts over here. We got $20 for t-shirts. Okay, Kyle, how many what's my number?
We've got 45 folks that are here.
45.
Oh, I'm sorry, 30 that are here.
30. That's more like it. I was gonna say, I counted, I didn't get that many.
No, we had 17 online.
14.
14. That is Joe Tito. There we
Okay,
go.
it's back on that table there. We've got 3 hats, one, probably a bee mug in that little box, and there's 4 hive tools. So just take your pick. Okay, next number is 28.
We've got John Bush.
John Bush. Go pick a prize. Number 1.
Timothy Rumfield.
Number 3.
Martin, is it Stonecker? There you go.
Okay. Number 14. Are you 14?
You already did 14.
Okay, this thing's not that real. 13 now.
Christy Coles.
Christy Coles. Some here. Oh, there she goes. 24. Went to 8 yet?
Let's see. 24 is. You already did 24.
I did?
Yes.
This thing's not very random. I could have a better generator. Number 9.
Sandy Cooper.
Well, there's still 3 prizes back there. Do I see a hive tool, a cup, and a hat still left? Okay, keep punching numbers. 18.
Mark Ryder.
Okay, 2 more. 22.
Jeff McMullen.
There you go.
And 8.
Yerji? Oh, sorry.
All right.
Butchered your name. I'm sorry.
Okay, fantastic. So our next meeting is March 21st here, 7 o'clock. And be sure to sign up back there with Harrison for the rodeo, which is a lot of fun, by the way. I've done it before myself, so it's great fun. And so if you would please, if you're leaving, put your chair up.
Actually, they want them to put it in a square around.
Oh, we're gonna make the chairs in a square. Hold on. We're making a square out of the chairs. Kyle will direct that. Okay.